I want you to something right now. Look at your last paycheck. Look at the number. Now ask yourself one honest question. If you stopped showing up tomorrow, if you got sick or injured, or simply decided not to go in, how long before that number goes to zero? For most people, the answer is 2 weeks, maybe a month if they're lucky. And that single fact, that terrifying, uncomfortable fact, is the entire reason most people will never be free. Not because they don't work hard enough, not because they aren't smart enough, but because they built their entire financial life on the most fragile foundation that exists: time. Their own limited, non-renewable time. My name is Warren Buffett, and I've spent my entire life studying the difference between people who build wealth and people who simply earn a living. Today, I want to talk to you about what I call the employee trap. It is the single most common mistake I see intelligent, hard-working people make, and almost nobody is talking about it honestly. So stay with me for the next 15 minutes, because what I'm about to share could be the most important financial conversation you have ever had. Now, let me tell you about a man I once knew. He worked for the same company for 31 years, showed up early, stayed late, never missed a day. His colleagues respected him, his boss praised him, he got steady raises. He was, by every traditional measure, a success. Then, at 62 years old, the company restructured, and in one afternoon meeting, one single afternoon, 31 years of loyal service was reduced to a severance package and a handshake. He called me, and I could hear it in his voice. Not just fear, confusion, because he had done everything right. He had followed the rules, and the rules had failed him. Here's what nobody tells you when you enter the workforce. The rules were never designed to make you wealthy. They were designed to make you useful. There is a profound difference between those two things. When you become an employee, you enter into a very specific kind of agreement. You give your most valuable asset, your time, in exchange for money. And that arrangement feels safe. It feels stable. A paycheck every 2 weeks, benefits, a title, structure. But here's the truth underneath that comfort. You are renting yourself out. And like all rental agreements, the moment you stop showing up, the payments stop too. Now, I'm not saying employment is evil. I'm not saying quit your job tomorrow. Please do not do that. What I am saying is this: if employment is your only income, you are one bad diagnosis, one layoff, one bad economy away from financial crisis. And that is not wealth. That is a very comfortable version of financial fragility. Let me explain the mechanics of the employee trap so you can see exactly how it works. It has 3 walls. The first wall is what I call the time for money ceiling. When you work a job, your income has a hard ceiling. 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week. That's your maximum. And no matter how talented you are, no matter how hard you work, you cannot work more hours than exist. Meanwhile, the assets I own, my businesses, my stocks, my investments, they have no such ceiling. They work every hour of every day, including the hours I spend sleeping, reading, or eating a cheeseburger in Omaha. My assets do not get tired. They do not call in sick. They do not ask for a raise. They simply compound, quietly, relentlessly, year after year. That's the first fundamental difference between employees and owners. Employees sell hours. Owners buy more hours through assets. The second wall of the employee trap is dependency. When your income comes from one source, one employer, you are entirely dependent on that source continuing to exist, continuing to value you, and continuing to afford you. Now, I have never in my entire career depended on a single stream of income. Even when I was young and had very little money, I was always building multiple streams, delivering newspapers and investing at the same time, running a paper route while studying businesses I wanted to own. The goal was never to earn more from one place. The goal was always to build more places that earned. Because here's what I've learned after 70 years of investing. It's not the size of your income that determines your freedom. It's the number of sources. One stream can dry up overnight, but 10 streams, even if each one is small, create something extraordinary. They create resilience. And resilience, not salary, is the foundation of real wealth. The third wall of the employee trap is the most dangerous one. I call it the comfort illusion. The paycheck arrives every 2 weeks like clockwork. The benefits renew every year. The structure makes you feel like you are building something, but you're not building something. You are maintaining something. There's a critical difference. When you maintain a job, you are preserving your current position. When you build assets, you are creating a future position that does not require your physical presence. The comfort of a steady paycheck is one of the most expensive things a person can buy, because it costs them the urgency to build something of their own. Charlie Munger, my partner of 60 years, once said something I think about often. He said, "Show me the incentive, and I'll show you the outcome." When your paycheck arrives, regardless of whether you think creatively, build something new, or grow, the incentive is simply to show up. And when showing up is all that's required, showing up is all you'll ever do. Now, let us talk about the escape, because I did not bring you this far to leave you without a path forward. Step 1. Understand that your job is the launch pad, not the destination. Your salary is not your wealth. It is the seed capital for your wealth. Every paycheck is an opportunity. The question is whether you eat that opportunity or invest it. Most employees spend every dollar they earn maintaining their lifestyle. The wealthy spend a portion of every dollar they earn acquiring assets. That single behavioral difference, repeated over decades, is the entire explanation for why some people retire at 50 and others work until they die. Step 2. Learn the language of ownership. Stocks, index funds, real estate, small businesses, intellectual property. These are not complicated concepts. They're simply assets that generate income whether you show up or not. You do not need to start a company to be an owner. When you buy a share of Coca-Cola, you own a piece of a business that sells 2 billion drinks every single day. You did not make those drinks, you did not deliver them, you did not market them, but you own a piece of every single one. That is the power of ownership, and it is available to everyone, including you. Step 3. Build one asset outside your job this year. Not 10, not 5, 1. It could be a small investment account you contribute to every month. It could be a skill that earns you freelance income on weekends. It could be a piece of content, a small online business, a rental property. The specific vehicle matters far less than the habit. You are teaching yourself a new identity, not employee, owner. And once that shift happens in your mind, it never fully goes back. Step 4. Protect your most valuable asset. And I do not mean your money. I mean your time. Every successful investor, entrepreneur, and wealth builder I have ever known became intensely, almost ruthlessly protective of how they spent their hours. They read voraciously. They thought deeply. They said no to almost anything that didn't move them closer to ownership. I read 5 to 6 hours a day. I have done this since before most of you were born, and I can tell you with complete certainty the returns on reading compound just as powerfully as the returns on investing. Knowledge builds upon itself. One insight leads to another, and one day the accumulation of all that reading creates a moment of clarity that changes everything. Step 5. Think like an owner, not an employee, starting today. Not after you quit your job, not after you save your first $100,000, today. Ask yourself every single morning, what am I building that will work for me while I sleep? That question, repeated every day, will fundamentally change every financial decision you make. Because owners see money as a tool to acquire more assets. Employees see money as a reward for time already spent. One mindset builds generational wealth. The other builds a very nice life that ends the moment the paychecks do. Now, before I go, I want to say something directly to you. If you are an employee right now, there's nothing wrong with that. I was a paper boy. I worked for Benjamin Graham. I've had bosses. Employment is not the enemy. Staying only an employee and never building something of your own, that is the trap. You have a paycheck, you have an income. Use it, plant it, grow it into something that does not depend on your physical presence to survive. Because the goal, the real goal, is not to earn more money. The goal is to one day make your time entirely your own. To wake up in the morning and choose how you spend the day, not because someone is paying you to, but because you built something that pays you whether you choose to work or not. That is freedom, and it is available to anyone who is willing to stop selling their time and start buying assets instead. Leave a comment below. Tell me, what is one asset you are going to start building this year? Write it down, put it in the comments, because declaring it publicly is the first act of an owner, not an employee. If this conversation meant something to you, share it with one person you care about, and subscribe to this channel if you want to keep having conversations like this one. Every week, we go deep on wealth, mindset, and the timeless principles that separate people who build from people who simply earn. The employee trap is real, but the door is open, and today, you just saw it. Thank you for watching.